Who comes in the name of the Lord.
Shalom and welcome to this edition of Revealing the Truth, where we cover the headlines, the heartlines, and biblical truth. I'm your host, the Reverend Rabbi Eric Walker. While growing older is inevitable, many of the troubles we associate with aging, including dementia, disability, and increased dependence on others, are not. The choices we make now can help us maintain a vitality, a sharp mind, and our independence as we age. For anyone hoping to slow the aging process, as well as anyone who acts as a caregiver, this new book by Dr. Timothy Jennings, The Aging Brain, offers a hopeful, healthy way forward. Dr. Jennings has been in private practice as a Christian psychiatrist and certified master psychopharmacologist since 1997. He spent more than 2 decades researching the interface between biblical principles and modern brain science. As a highly sought-after lecturer, international speaker, he's the author of The God-Shaped Brain, The God-Shaped Heart, and The Aging Brain. He's in private practice in Chattanooga, Tennessee. You can find more about theagingbrain.com and his ministry, where he blogs regularly with some really amazing insights and Bible studies at comeandreason.com. Joining us now to continue in our ongoing discussion about the aging brain, proven steps to prevent dementia and sharpen your brain, is Dr. Timothy Jennings. Tim, welcome back to Revealing the Truth.
Thanks for having me, Eric.
It's always great to be with you. I always like to take a little step back, kind of bring our audience up to speed, that in the aging brain, you cover a whole plethora of contributing factors, lifestyle factors, dietary factors, things that we can control in reversing, if we happen to catch it at the right time, the early onset of dementia and resetting the brain back to its fully operative and functional condition. No claim made that as you're in an advanced stage that this will cure or improve, but certainly a deeper understanding into how we got here, and with the percentage of the population aging, as we continue to grow into this area, we're seeing more diagnosis of early onset of dementia. So just kind of as a summary, what are the main contributing factors and some of the simple things we can do immediately, simple changes we can immediately implement that are not radical, are not so burdensome, cumbersome that we wind up giving them up like we do our New Year's resolutions?
Yes, that's a great question. And what I want the audience to really understand is the big principles that God is creator and his laws, like the laws of health, the laws upon which reality work. And as we harmonize with those principles, the laws of health, we get healthier and we can protect ourselves. If we break those principles or laws, then we damage or degrade ourselves and accelerate the decline. That's the big vision that people need to understand, because when I give some specifics, they're always moving in harmony with those principles, and that's why you get these great results. So one of those would be physical exercise. You know, if you want something to get stronger, you've got to exercise it, because if you don't use it, you lose it. Well, that's when we talk about exercise, it's both the physical aspect of it. When we exercise our bodies physically, that produces a lot of proteins that cause our brain to make new neurons. It reduces inflammation. It improves circulation, vascularization to the brain. So all kinds of healthy things happen. But also mental exercise. When we exercise mentally, we produce different proteins in our brain that actually keeps our brain healthy. And both of these, mental and physical exercise, are protective to the brain structure itself and help prevent dementia. So that would be one simple thing we could do to stay active, stay vibrant. One of the dangers in our society is this idea that came with Social Security that at age 65, it's time to quit. And we retire from gainful employment, which is okay, but we should not retire from active living. And many people retire from active living and kick back on the couch, watch TV, and then they just completely decay away.
You know, it's interesting you said that. You and I have talked about my mother, 93, plays golf twice a week, takes no medications. My sister lives up near her and always says, Mom doesn't eat that much. And when I ask her what she's eating, she's telling me, and there's small portions. She doesn't have a big appetite. She's not a very big woman, but she has very healthy choices, and she remains active. She gets up early. She goes out. She does things. Her winter season is more sedentary, but she's an avid reader. So even though her sleep patterns are broken up into maybe 2 or 3 sleep episodes, 2 and 3 hours at a time.
Right.
As she ages, the patterns change. But what she's done is she has a place where she actually goes and sits and reads. I tend to think she probably sleeps more in that chair than she may in the bed.
And you've mentioned 3 things there that I want the audience to recognize. You followed up on the exercise and activity piece, but you also mentioned sleep, a routine sleep. And your mother, as she's getting about 7 total hours of sleep a night, even if it's in 2 or 3 hour blocks, that's perfectly healthy. It's okay. It's the total sleep in the 24-hour period. Nobody has a solid 7 straight hours of sleep. So that's good, because it's during sleep that the byproducts of metabolism are cleared out of the brain to keep the brain healthy. And then you mentioned diet, food choices. And you also said she doesn't eat a lot. People who have periods of fasting, and that fasting could be 12 hours between the evening meal and the morning meal, also improve longevity and brain function, because it gives the brain time to clear the byproducts of metabolism. And so the food choices, healthy food choices, and we can talk about what some of those are if you want, but those are the big simple things. Healthy food choices, regular mental rest, sleep for the body, staying physically and mentally active. That's great. Your mom's doing the right stuff.
Well, she's been a strong example. We've talked about that many times about the. She actually is a little cavalier when she goes to the doctor. They say list all the prescriptions you take, and she said, "Why would I take the medicines that you prescribed? You killed all my friends." So she's 93. She's outlived 3 doctors. She has a poker game on Wednesday nights, and now you have to be under 65 in order to play, because she said she got tired of having to always find a replacement for somebody who died. So now she has an age limit. She's got an incredible sense of humor, which I also think is a contributing factor.
Yes, actually, humor shows. Actually, merry heart doeth good like a medicine. Well, the science shows that people have regular laughter. You actually have better vascularization. Your body creates antioxidant factors. You have less stress on your brain, heart, and body. So, no, it's very true. Physiologically, we can document the benefits from a mirthful, merry heart.
It's when we look at the positives, and I think many of us know that healthy relationships, not being isolated, finding ways to keep your mind active, we hear all that and we know all that, but then there are family dynamics, and there are situations, and there's trauma, and there's stress, and there's trouble, and you find yourself drifting away and almost wanting to avoid conflict, wanting to step away. There's people that get overwhelmed, increase in depression, increase in anxiety, increase in sleep disorders, and all of a sudden medications are being rampantly prescribed, and that has an impact as well on your brain chemistry. The serotonin reuptake inhibitors are stopping the brain from doing things that it was designed to do. So how do we weigh this? How do we balance this? Is there correlation that
that's a great question. When somebody is in a state of clinical depression, we know that the brain is not functioning normally. The brain circuits are out of balance. The genes that are important to keep the brain healthy have been shut down and turned off. Higher inflammatory cascades happen. And when we use antidepressant medicines, what the antidepressant medicines do is they cause a cascade of events that turn the genes back on that have been shut down during depression. So neurotrophic proteins begin to be produced again, brain volume improves. So in a clinical illness or syndrome of depression, they can be quite helpful. to getting a person back to wellness. But they don't really, for most people, address the underlying reasons why they got depressed in the first place. And there's a whole host of factors. People can get depression because of relationship conflict or isolation, or they can have depression because of nutritional deficiencies or hormone imbalances or sleep disorders, and on the list goes. And so to really get to wellness, you have to do more than just take a medication. You want to address the variables that have got your being out of balance and get yourself back into that healthy balance.
It's interesting as I'm in this area, this age group where I'm having friends who are diagnosed and being diagnosed with early onset. I'm 67, so they're between 67 and
So let me clarify for everybody. There is a clinical condition known as early onset Alzheimer's dementia. And if you use that language in the medical field, it actually means getting dementia before the age of 65, typically in the 40s and 50s. And that's a very small subset, and it's genetically driven, autosomal dominant, that runs in families. And so it's less than 5% or about 5% of all the Alzheimer's types dementias. So it's a very small group. 95% of the Alzheimer's dementias are after age 65, and that's considered late onset. And I know that you and I now think 67 doesn't sound very old, and so it sounds young to us, but in the clinical language, it actually is late onset if it's after age 65.
Okay, so in this case, the lifestyle factors leading up to this age. So
that's right.
One of the things that's changed in my life, which has also changed my outlook on life, is my daughter's 33 weeks pregnant. And so I'm looking at grandparenthood. And so she came up on Father's Day and spent 4 days with me. It's kind of the last travel trip before she goes back to Florida to have.
Congratulations, Grandpa.
Thank you. And I started to think about expectations and grandparenting and relational and how I wanted to structure my life so I could be an actively involved grandfather and have a relationship, an active relationship through the formative years with my grandchild, just 4 hours away. And so my daughter and I spent the 4 days we just spent together talking about creating a system of her, the father of the child, and maybe one day her husband is a boat captain, and so he's out on the water from 4:30 in the morning till 11:30 at night in the fishing season when tourists are out fishing. So he's not there a lot during the season. So we agreed she's going to come up and stay with me on a regular. We would chart it out on a regular frequency. And I started thinking about the coaching, the guiding, the leading, the second chance at parenting via grandparenting, and how it's God's retrieval and how it's God's way of allowing us to be a better version of ourselves than when we were in the throes of the pressures of parenting, and getting my mind set on kind of resetting scheduling and schedules and priorities and things like that so I could have availability. And I found it to be very stimulating and very exciting that the future, which was rather undefined other than my annual trips to Israel, my show schedule, my teaching, my preaching schedule, my book due, my manuscript deadlines and things like that. Other than that, there wasn't a whole lot else thrown in there into the mix, and this added something to it which dramatically changed my perspective, and I felt my demeanor, my attitude change.
Change your perspectives in what way?
Kind of seeing myself more engaged in family settings. I've been
Did it also make you just a little more thoughtful about wanting to stay healthy so you can see your grandchild grow up?
Absolutely, no question, absolutely no question at all. You know, I think I've talked with you before that my father died early. He was a red meat eater, 3 martini a day. He retired, and at his retirement party, he had a heart attack because he had no vision for what was going to happen the next day. Everything in his life had been structured. From 18 to 65, there was structure. He knew exactly what he was going to be doing every day, and here a day was looming in front of him when he did not know what he was going to do, and it was crippling. Of course, he had already had the arteriosclerosis and the hardening of the arteries, and the blockages were already there, but they just, because of this wash of stress, just took him right over the edge, and he never really recovered from that for 20 years. Never really recovered from that. He was never healthy. I knew that, and so as I began to enter this, I hate it that I fall into this category of geriatric, and geriatric care and geriatric decision making and Medicare and what comes along with that. I don't have the mind of a 67-year-old. I don't have the body. I have the stamina. We're in Israel, and I'm hiking 10 miles in a day, and my heart rate doesn't go up that much, and there's no stress, there's no out of breath. I'm in great physical shape. I don't take any medications. I'm not prescribed anything, and a lot of that has to do with the food choices and the Mediterranean diet that I stay on because I'm in Israel, and I look around me, and there's not a lot of I'll be blunt and bold. There's not a lot of fat 90-year-olds.
Yeah, that's right. No, that's true. That's exactly right.
And in the idea of the Middle East, there isn't retirement. You don't retire. You don't stop.
And that is so healthy to stay active and engaged. Have a purpose, have a meaning, have something constructive to do with yourself. We need that. It's very demoralizing to the human being made in the image of God to not have anything to invest themselves in. In Eden, God gave them work to do. And we find a sense of well-being in industrial activity. It doesn't have to be for a paycheck, but doing something that we invest our energies into that we can be proud of. It's healthy for us, and it's demoralizing to the integrity of the person and mentally damaging for people who are capable to be put in a position of inactivity.
I see it evidenced in the church as people begin to age and they're not engaged. There's a difference, and age is a core word in that word, engage. Age is right there in the middle of it. And there's such a desperate need in the church for mentors. You and your wife have been married how many years?
20 years.
20 years, okay. That's a milestone. Okay, it's a tribute to having navigated child rearing, career building, practice building, speaking, all these things and balancing. And there's a newlywed couple that's entering into marriage, and they don't have somebody outside their mothers and fathers to go to. They need couples to mentor them, to meet with them once a month, to become marriage mentors, to become close, to share the successes, the failures, how they did it, how you learn. How did you learn to become an active listener? We're not born active listeners. Develop that.
And residency training. I have 4 years of actual professional training to actually become a psychiatrist and I listen differently as a psychiatrist than I do as a friend.
So we have to be able to impart that. I mean, there's a great wealth of information. I think that we, biblically, we honored the older generation because we live with them.
Right.
Grandparents were still in the home with the children. They still played a part. They were
there to share their wisdom.
And we've lost. I think we've lost a lot of that. We've lost a lot of that as the calling of the church because a lot of churches are just open on Sunday. they gather together on Sunday, and then during the week they do other things, but the church isn't.
There's another important point you're making, that the neuroscience shows that social isolation causes gene expression that increases inflammation and reduces our ability to fight infections, social isolation. And both of those changes increases your risk of dementia. Conversely, people who are socially connected have gene expression changes that reduce inflammation and improve their ability to fight infections. So social relationships, not just family, but that connected into a community, is very healthy for people.
When we look at the average person's life and we ask them how things are going, a lot of them focus on the stressors or the dysfunction. I like to hear a good report. You don't always get a good report. And as I begin to think back, I start to think that I know in my life that one of the manifestations of stress in my life was I ate the wrong foods. I was very drawn to sweets, to that's what ice cream or my favorite cookie. My brain would tell me this: don't go to the store and buy this. Don't go to the store and buy this. Don't go to the store and buy this. And I would walk right over the freezer counter and load up the cart. And I was very impressed because I found something that only had, if you ate the whole thing, it was only 300 calories. Okay, so I said, wow, this is great. I can do one of these a day and not tip my calorie intake. Well, but then you were adding this and this and this, and none of it was good for you, but it met a number requirement. And so I began to realize that if I didn't recognize patterns, that I was going to be heading down this path of unhealthiness. Stress has impacts on the brain we cannot see, but it also has impacts on the body that maybe we can see, or if we noticed, if we took time. And maybe if we took time to notice people in our lives, we might be able to see stress. And we've talked about how stressors alter brain chemistry. And so it's a major contributor to this onset of dementia, the onset of the aging brain.
And we talk about the stress that's damaging. We're talking about what we call distress, okay? And the distress, the impacts on the body are that the immune system gets kicked up. And so symptoms of that, and the immune system kicks up more inflammation, but the symptoms of that would be things like fatigue, just feeling tired all the time. A change from your baseline self. I used to be energetic. Now I just feel tired all the time. Now, that's not a specific symptom. You could have that because you're anemic. You could have that because you're hypothyroid, okay? But it also is a symptom of an inflamed state. Aches and pains, general aches and pains, not a specific joint that's injured, okay? But general aches and pains all over. You hurt more. That's also a symptom. Sleep disturbance. I just don't sleep as well, or I sleep too much because I'm just tired all the time. Weight change. These are all symptoms of an inflamed state that we can be in. And then cognitive, not dementia, not memory loss, but you just feel a little foggy. It's like you're trying to think through a fog. It's just harder to get there. You can still do it. You can still balance your checkbook, but where you could just balance your checkbook like that, now you got to really work at it. It just takes a lot of mental effort. Again, inflamed state.
Does having a routine help? I find that
it depends on what the routine is, right? How about you have a routine of smoking 2 cigarettes every hour?
Oh, that's true.
I mean, yes, but generally routines help. Yes.
Like I make my bed every day. I live by myself with a dog, but I still make my bed every day. Okay, that's part of my routine. There's things that I do to keep my house up all the time that are routine. I don't let things pile up. I don't let them,
Yeah.
I'm not a clutter
Yeah,
person.
the routines that you're describing, why they're beneficial is because number one, if it's a routine, you don't actually have to think about it and problem solve. It's not a problem I have to solve. It's not, well, what am I supposed to do? And it takes mental energy. So it takes less mental energy to do your routines, number one. And number two, because you're doing routines that you've predetermined somewhere along the line are important for your daily living, then you don't fall behind. You don't feel overwhelmed. You don't feel like you're drowning just in trying to keep up with life. So it makes you less stressed in life to have healthy routines. Absolutely.
Very interesting. We're talking with Dr. Timothy Jennings, author of The Aging Brain, Proven Steps to Prevent Dementia and Sharpen Your Mind. And as we do mostly every month, we have these conversations about lifestyle and how you can take steps to improve your brain chemistry and to keep yourself sharp much longer than statistics have been showing us as people begin this decline and fear, worry about is this going to happen to me? Are you going to be somebody that's going to need to be taken care of? And at my age, you look at that and say, I never want that to be me, so what am I going to do now to ensure that that's not going to be me? We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about how some of these symptoms that Dr. Jennings is telling us about can be noticed by you, about your friends. They talk more about or you notice they're more fatigued, or they're more tired, or they complain more about aches and pains. You notice that they're more frequently ill. Maybe there's something that we can do as a community to be involved and be engaged. And what can we do to support others in embracing a more healthy lifestyle? And I'm not talking about meeting at the gym. I'm talking about social interaction and maybe even Bible study groups in this particular area. And that's part of what ComeAndReason.com is all about, that kind of takes you on a Bible study journey through some of these issues. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll rejoin Dr. Timothy Jennings about the aging brain. We'll be right back. Not everything that makes the headlines has biblical importance, but many events that happen around the world do, and you never hear about them. Igniting a Nation is pleased to teach Revealing Prophecy every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. at the Marriott 280 in Birmingham. We will cover worldwide events and insider information that will connect the dots of what's happening around the world with biblical prophecy. If you happen to miss a class, we'll televise each week's class at 10 o'clock Central Time on ignitinganation.com and all our social media outlets. Copies of the teachings will also be available to purchase on our website at www.ignitinganation.com. The Lord meets you right where you are, and so does Igniting a Nation's new live streaming outlets. You can now watch Revealing the Truth, Revealing the Bible, and Prophecy Revealed simulcast live each Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 1 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on YouTube Live, Facebook Live, Vimeo, Periscope, and through our website, www.ignitinganation.com. No matter what device you are using, our program will automatically scale so you won't have to miss a single program. And if you happen to miss an episode, you can always subscribe to the Igniting a Nation YouTube channel and access over 1,000 interviews and never miss your favorite authors, special guests, and topics that interest you the most.
There are lots of ways to see Israel, but nothing compares to seeing the land of the book and the people of the book through the eyes of two Jewish believers who can take you on a journey that will bring the entire Bible to life. When you join Rabbi Eric Walker and his #1 rated tour guide, Edo Canaan, in Israel, you'll experience incredible teachings, first-class accommodations, and actually walk where Jesus walked. You will experience the Bible transforming from black and white into living color, and you will never see the Bible in the same way again. For more information, visit us at www.ignitinganation.com/events.
The Lord contends with what contends with you, and Igniting a Nation is committed to bringing to light each and every issue that faces a believer's life. Our live stream programming and teachings take you on a journey to finding biblical truth from a wide variety of experts who share their insights into a deeper walk with the Lord. We have assembled the most comprehensive panel of experts in the fields of prophecy, caregiving, healing from trauma, shame, and abuse, and so much more. We continue to expand our teachings and programming to meet your needs. We're committed to healing the nations with biblical truth. Visit www.ignitinganation.com to develop a deeper walk with the Lord and start your journey to a transformed life. The Bible commands us to study to show ourselves approved, but most study using Bible study tools and not actually studying the Bible chapter and verse. Igniting a Nation is pleased to present Revealing the Bible, recorded and taught each week before a live audience. We take you deeper into the actual Bible and verse in both Hebrew and English and connect the dots between the Old and New Testament. You can attend our 2 classes in Tuscaloosa and Birmingham, or watch the program every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Central Time on ignitinganation.com and all our other simulcast outlets. For more information, visit www.ignitinganation.com/events. Shalom and welcome back to this edition of Revealing the Truth, where we cover the headlines, the heartlines, and biblical truth. I'm your host, the Reverend Rabbi Eric Walker. We're talking with Dr. Timothy Jennings, author of The Aging Brain, Proven Steps to Prevent Dementia and Sharpen Your Mind. Dr. Jennings, welcome back to Revealing the Truth.
Great to be here.
Tim, you described a lot of things that are symptomatic. Aches and pains, more infections, not maybe a general malaise, more tired, maybe turning down invitations where you used to be accepting of invitations. And all of a sudden your social structure, your friends began to notice there's changes, but they don't know that these changes are symptomatic of something. They just, boy, that Eric, he's just not available anymore. He doesn't do stuff with us anymore. I talked to him and he says, yeah, he's feeling really run down. Is there a way for us to bump up our kind of accountability? We hold people spiritually accountable. Is this a new season as we look at the aging brain for us to become more physiologically accountable, to offer up a comment and say, Tim, I've kind of noticed you've been, there's some things going on with you.
Yeah, I think that the answer to that is yes, if you have a relationship with them. And so whether that's a family relationship or a church relationship or a Bible study relationship or an exercise group relationship, but you have a relationship so that you have that foundation already built so that when you reach out and make those comments, they'll understand that they're coming from a heart of concern and a heart of love and a heart for their welfare. Because when you approach a subject with somebody that has the potential to threaten their mental well-being, it can be quite frightening, and it can result in a high level of denial and an unwillingness to actually deal with the problem. And so you've got to have a good foundation with them to be able to have that to prevent an angry outburst or simply rejection. Now, to the degree that there actually is something going on, really, you're more likely to get a negative response than if there's nothing going on. If there's nothing going on, the person is more likely to feel not threatened, and they go, thanks for asking, I really appreciate that. But the person with something that's going on and that some part of them recognizes they're not quite where they used to be, and they're afraid of that loss, they often are not ready to acknowledge it, and they'll deny it, and they won't want to talk about it, and they might avoid you after that. So you have to be aware of that possibility that could happen, but love doesn't cause you to be silent. Love causes you to reach out in concern.
As you look out at the responses you're getting to the aging brain, who is responding to you? Who's reaching out to you in response to the book? Is it somebody that has, they're offering caregiving, they have a loved one they're concerned about, or is it more self-reflective that they have a concern?
So the majority of people that I've spoken to are concerned with their own mental well-being, but so many of them also have a loved one, a family member, my mother, my grandmother, my brother, somebody in the family, my spouse has dementia. And so it's both. I think it's the having a family member has alerted them to be maybe a little bit more vigilant and aware, and so they're aware of their own need to be healthful, so that they don't fall into those or have those same problems later in life.
You know, earlier on we talked about early onset being before age 65, and then I guess normal onset would be after 65. Is there a difference in the way they manifest themselves? Do they all appear the same?
So when we talk about dementia, dementia is the syndrome of memory impairment with other losses of ability, like language impairment with memory impairment, or memory impairment with loss of motor ability, tie your shoe, button your shirt, or I recognize objects, or ability to balance your checkbook, organize, and do just normal mental processes. And so dementia is that functional loss. Anything that damages the brain can cause dementia. So the underlying disease that is in the brain causes that type of dementia. So for instance, Parkinson's disease can cause Parkinson's dementia. Alzheimer's disease causes Alzheimer's dementia. Vascular disease causes vascular dementia. And so when we talk about the different manifestations, there's one called Lewy body dementia, and that's caused by Lewy body disease. Okay? And so the different diseases cause the different types of dementia, and thus the symptoms can be different in how they present depending on the type of dementia they have. Now, with Alzheimer's disease, there's the early onset Alzheimer's disease and the late onset Alzheimer's disease. Functionally, what's happening in the brain is basically the same, so they present similarly. The age is different. The underlying reasons, though, are different. With the early onset, it's a bad gene that you inherit. That causes it directly. Less than 5% of cases have that. And if you have that bad gene, that right now there's nothing we know that can prevent it. The gene is broken and it causes it. The late onset, or the after age 65 onset Alzheimer's disease, will have the same brain changes happening, but it's not because you have a broken gene. It's because you've had a cascade of other factors causing inflammation, insulin resistance in the brain, and neuron loss that is really related to lifestyle factors that cause the brain changes that lead to Alzheimer's dementia.
Is there a point, an age, where you're like all clear? Like if I make it to 75 and don't exhibit any signs of dementia, do I get an all clear? Do I get do I have a goal that I can look out from a timeline standpoint that says if I'm not exhibiting any of these symptoms by this point, I'm good to go?
Is there an age that you get to that you never have to worry about atrophy? Do you know what atrophy is?
Sure.
Atrophy is if you don't use it, you begin withering away. Is there an age that if I stayed active and could walk 2 miles without any shortness of breath at age 75, does that mean I will do that the rest of my life?
No.
No, not if you don't stay active, okay? And so the underlying causes, no, 75 does not mean you're not going to get it. But it's a good sign that you might be resilient and you might have been doing healthy lifestyle stuff. But if you stay with the healthy lifestyle, then you're preventing. Remember, what causes this is inflammation that drives insulin resistance, that causes a cascade of brain changes that causes neuronal loss. If we do the healthy lifestyles to reduce that inflammatory cascade and have all those healthy things going, then we can progress through the later years of life without getting the dementia. It's quite preventable with the healthy lifestyle choices. But a person could, at age 75, for instance, couldn't a 75-year-old pick up smoking if they wanted to?
Absolutely. You know, the continuity of making healthy choices is, we've heard that for a very long time. Unfortunately, people don't always heed the counsel and therefore wind up in a place they don't want to be. and are looking for.
The reason for that is because God has made us so incredibly. We have so much resilience built into us that we don't often see these consequences instantly. It takes years of abuse to the body before we actually see some of these changes. But then by the time we see them, some of these changes are almost irreversible in many ways. For instance, if you smoke one cigarette in your life, there's no measurable change that we're going to be able to identify from one cigarette. But that one cigarette was still not healthy for you. It's just that we have so much resilience that one cigarette isn't enough to overcome all the body's incredible systems. But one pack of cigarettes a day, we will see overcoming the resilience, and there will be changes that will accelerate the decline and accelerate the aging. And so this is why there's lifestyle choices like, well, high sugar diet, high fat diet, high unhealthy meat choices diets, and fast food diets. You know, if you eat let's say you eat a Big Mac and fries once in your life, or even once a year in your life, you're probably not going to measure that change if the rest of the year you're doing healthy stuff. So that's why people often don't see, well, I couldn't tell. I ate a Big Mac and fries. I couldn't tell. Because it takes repeated abuse of the body to wear it down, because God made us incredibly well.
You know, there's the spiritual law of drift that parallels the physical law of drift, is that you start out meaning well and doing well and making healthy choices, and then an occasion comes along and you don't make a healthy choice, and then disaster doesn't befall you. You don't wind up on a gurney in the emergency room, and so, well, that wasn't so bad, and so then you begin to drift away.
Yes.
But there's also the bombardment of things like paleo and vegan and gluten-free, and we have all of these choices laid out before us, swinging from Atkins, which pushes your body into ketoacidosis, which for a diabetic is not a good place to be. It's not where they want to go. But yet there's a food program which takes the healthy body and puts it into this imbalanced state, supposedly accelerating you know, a better way and a weight loss program. How do we make sense? Because there's something new there every single day.
So first off, I tell my patients, don't go on a diet, because diets come to an end. So even if it works for you for 6 weeks, 12 weeks, 6 months, if you end it and go back to your old way, then all the old problems come back. So you never go on a diet. What you do is you make healthy lifestyle changes. So you live your lifestyle. This is how I live. So I used to drink sodas. Now I don't drink sodas. Sodas aren't part of that doesn't mean you can't have one once a year or something, but it's not going to, you know, but the point is, daily sodas, now I drink water. That's a lifestyle change. And the healthier lifestyles are moving towards God's design for the human physiology. And the two dietary patterns which have consistently shown better brain volume and less dementia risks and better cognitive performance as we age are either the whole food plant-based diet or the Mediterranean diet, high in the fish oils. And those two diets consistently show better brain outcomes than any other diet. Now, that's on a population basis. With that being said, individuals must make individual choices based on their unique individual body. So there might be somebody where I recommend walnuts because walnuts are very healthy for the brain, but there could be an individual who has an allergy to nuts and they can't eat the walnuts, so they need to avoid that. Some people have gluten intolerance. That's a body, their body can't handle gluten. They need a gluten-free diet, but the rest of us don't need a gluten-free diet who don't have gluten intolerances. And so we do need to make individual choices as we know and learn our bodies.
You know, there's new supplements. I think the big push today is nitrous oxide. Increase the oxygen level of your blood and you're going to increase your brain chemistry and your ability to heal and a stronger heart. Is there any truth to any of that?
You mean hyperbaric oxygen?
No, nitrous oxide,
I mean, laughing gas.
Well, that was nitrous oxide. That's
So I haven't heard of what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Nitric oxide.
it's a super oxygenator for the blood.
Yeah, I haven't seen any data on that.
So does that even make sense to increase?
I would want to see data. I would tell you though, oxidation, which is putting oxidizing molecules into your body, accelerates aging. So what's oxidation? When you put a piece of fruit on the counter, you've cut an apple in half and you put it on the counter, you come back 30, 40 minutes later and it's browned. What's happened is the oxygen in the atmosphere is reacting with that pectin and apple, damaging it, turning it brown. Well, our body's tissues can be damaged by reactive oxygen species, and that accelerates aging. That's why you hear so much about antioxidants. So in certain situations, hyper oxygen states can be very beneficial to a wound healing circumstance, but you've got a wound. Wounds are not normal health, okay? So I would want to see what the data is, where they're applying it. Sometimes because it's true that certain wounds and wound healing can be benefited by oxygen, then people extrapolate that out to apply it someplace where it doesn't belong, and they haven't actually proven that to be true. So I would want to see the data and see what it says.
When we're talking with people and people are exchanging ideas of what they're doing, and I think I told you that I finally figured out that I'm healthiest when I'm in Israel. Why don't I just come home and eat the same things I eat in Israel? And that was almost 15 years in the making for that thought to occur to me.
Actually, in Israel, do they have GMO foods there?
No.
See, in Europe, they don't have GMO food either. And I'm going to tell you, I have grave concerns about genetically modified foods. We know, this is a proven scientific fact, that when you eat food, you not only absorb the fats, proteins, and carbohydrates, you absorb the genetic material in the food. And we have proven that some of that genetic material can alter how our genes are being expressed, turning genes on and turning genes off. Now, when they do this research and they say this GMO food is safe, there has been zero research on how genetically modified foods are altering our gene expression. And there is research out there that shows that genetically modified foods increase obesity in people, and even secondary genetically modified foods, meaning you feed fish genetically modified corn and then you eat the fish. That still increases obesity because you're getting the same problem going on. And so I think that it's not just necessarily the food choices. You could make the same choices here in America, but if you're using genetically modified food, it may still have a worse health outcome on you. Again, there's data to support what I'm saying, and so I have grave concerns about that.
Well, I do as well. Pesticides, the GMO, the
pesticides, I'm not as concerned with, because you can wash and scrub and get the pesticides off most things you can. But the GMO, it's right in the actual tissues and fabric of the food you're eating.
So we've talked before about wild-caught salmon being an important part of your diet, my diet. Tuna. I eat, I think I tell you that I wait for it to go on sale and I buy ahi tuna steaks and freeze them and then have them and eat them raw, which I like with wasabi, and it's just...
Are they flash frozen?
Yeah, they're flash frozen.
Okay.
Yeah, they're not sitting out and...
Well, no, it's important because raw fish have parasites.
Yes.
And I want our audience to understand this. I know you understand it, but the flash freezing will kill the parasites. If you just catch a fish and you cut it from the ocean to your table and don't flash freeze it, you can actually introduce parasites that can cause significant problems to your health.
Yeah, and it is all flash frozen, and it actually tells the store I buy it at tells you that it's on the sign how they do that. But vegetables, which I eat a lot of, are grown by people that I know, so they actually bring them to me. I don't buy a lot of store-bought vegetables because I don't trust them. I don't trust the mass-produced. And I also don't trust the fact that if you look at the labeling, a lot of our fruits and vegetables are foreign grown. They're from other countries, and
Yep.
their reporting mechanisms and complete trust and faith in the FDA is really not where I'm going to put my trust and faith in the FDA. In Israel, Israel is a completely self-sufficient nation with the exception of beef. They don't raise their own beef. They import beef from Brazil and from New Zealand. Or Argentina, Brazil, Argentina, and New Zealand. But they're not a big beef country, but it is the only agriculturally self-sufficient country in the world. They could survive if all their borders were closed off with what they grow because they have 2 harvests a year. And their harvest yields 10 times what the American harvest yields in the same acreage with the same crop because they use phenomenal irrigation systems, drip irrigation systems that they've developed. They actually harness humidity out of the air and channel the humidity and have it condensate and bring it right to the base of the plant, 4 inches down so that nothing goes into the air so that it doesn't evaporate. So they're getting 88% of the water to the roots, where in America you get 40% of the water to the roots. And so there's a lot of good things. Unfortunately, of course, you can't buy their vegetables here. You can buy them in Europe because they grow.
Oh, I would like to get European bread because it's not made with GMO wheat.
Yeah, and I'm not a bread. Didn't grow up as a bread eater, and the only dairy, because my father had no dairy in his house other than cheese. For some reason, Hungarians and Eastern Europeans just didn't understand the drinking the milk of another animal.
Yeah, I don't either. No, I don't like it.
So I've never had a glass of milk.
Yeah, grew up on soy milk.
So the whole. This is a lifestyle.
Yes.
And I think the entire premise is, and the earlier you start, the better you are, but you also carry a message that says that if you are not exhibiting these symptoms, then there may be something you can do about it.
And don't forget, you say earlier start, that's right, but it's never too late to start. As long as you don't have full onset dementia, the studies show that people with mild cognitive changes, so there's changes that are noticeable to themselves and to friends where they're not quite as sharp, they're a little more forgetful, but they don't meet criteria for dementia. If they start these lifestyle changes and are really committed to them, they don't progress to dementia. So they can forestall and stop the cascade of events and keep their brain healthy if they get, my experience is, I'll be honest, the majority of people, when they're 65, 75, and they start noticing some changes, and but they're not demented, and you give them a lifestyle plan where they've got to, quit doing certain things, they've got to start walking, et cetera, cut out the sodas, cut out some of this. Many of them just won't do it. So I've done this my whole life, and I'm not, and they don't change, and then therefore they can't stop the process. But if they make the changes, it's never too late. One study showed people over 65 who just began walking regularly, up to 20 minutes. Once they got up to 20 minutes a day, after a couple of months, they could see growth in the memory circuits of their brain, which reversed 2 years of aging. Their brain looked younger just from walking. One intervention.
I've got a friend that's got pancreatic cancer, and he refuses to stop eating from the fast food restaurants, and so he's it's a death wish or a death sentence for him, because even now they're saying to him, you could extend your life if you stopped these dietary habits, and he just is stuck in his dietary habits. So I don't want to be there. I don't want to get there, and we appreciate you so much for continuing to remind us. And that's a lot of this is a reminder, a refresher, and also talking about some new relevant things to look for in each other and to be in relationship with each other so that we can be more a part of somebody's overall holistic approach to their healing, which also has to do with people noticing. People care about you, who love you, who are able to speak up. We've been talking with Dr. Timothy Jennings, author of The Aging Brain, Proven Steps to Prevent Dementia and Sharpen Your Mind. You can find him at agingbrain.com or through his ministry website, comeandreason.com. Incredible teachings, Bible study outlines, Bible study notes, great wealth of resource from our very productive and effective friend, Timothy Jennings. We look forward to seeing you, not next month, but I believe the month after. And we wish you safe travels and blessings on you and your family. And thank you again for always a sterling conversation.
Thank you, Eric.
God bless. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll bring you the next edition of Revealing the Truth.